What's going on, people? Good morning. Welcome to United View. Welcome to the Morning View. Myself and Owen are going to take you through the latest Manchester United news, latest rumours, the build up to the weekend as well. It's the build up to Christmas. There's so much going on. And obviously, look, if you do not celebrate Christmas as well, big up to you, because this time of year, it's towards the end of the year, beginning of a new year coming, etc., etc. So it doesn't matter what it is that you're up to. There's always stuff going on this time of the year. So much going on at United. At this point of view. What are we going to be talking about today? The ghost, the wraith, the phantom. And I've actually had to toy with this and kind of rethink where I am, because I do this a lot. Obviously, you get your initial reaction, you say certain things, and sometimes you get a bit of reflection and you're like, maybe I feel something different. So we're going to talk about that. There's Madrid interest, Real Madrid interest in the injury to David Alaba. Obviously, he's out of a long-term injury. There is talks, there is rumors, and we're going to talk about what that is and who said it and what it means of Real Madrid wanting a Rafael Varane return. There's also stuff about Ten Hag, who has sort of said he wants to keep certain players. So we're going to talk about that. A little bit on the Super League as well. UEFA for getting a telling off. We're going to talk about that. Donny loan exit. Obviously, he's made his trip out there to Germany, come back. We think that's all complete. And West Ham versus Man United as well. So a jam-packed show. A little bit of snippets coming up as well. Some little teasers. I hope you're going to enjoy that as well. So much to get into, Owen.
Yes, so much to get into, indeed. I tell you what, Flex, as well. Very windy where I am today.
Really?
There's a storm. I forget the name.
I
There's
saw
a
on the
storm.
app thing as a storm coming to
Yeah,
England. Just if you got it already.
yeah. If you're in sort of the north, be careful. There's a yellow weather warning. It's very windy today. Christmas travel's affected and all that kind of stuff. I was woken up in the morning by the blusters, the gusts of wind. But we're here to deliver news this morning. We're going to talk about Rafael Varane. You're right, because Christian Falk has said that after the injury to David Alaba, Real Madrid are interested. What did you do to your camera?
I kicked the bottom of the thing.
I tell you what, I thought the wind got you.
Yeah,
What a setup! What a setup that is. But after the injury to David Alaba, Real Madrid are reportedly interested in re-signing Rafael Varane. That's all they've said, really. Now, you could argue, what would a German journalist know about, a Spanish football story? But I suppose David Alaba, Austrian, isn't he? If I'm correct.
Yes, David Alaba is Austrian. Yeah,
used to play in Germany, so that there would be links. There's logic to this one if you put the points together. And we do know when it comes to Rafael Varane, of course, as of right now, his contract is expiring at the end of the season, unless the option has been triggered, which we widely expect it to be. It was reported, I think, by Rob Dawson from ESPN yesterday that Erik ten Hag wants to keep both Rafael Varane and Casemiro at least until the end of the season. But there was, quite interestingly, in Rob Dawson's piece about that, he said there was some acknowledgement that, look, FFP is a real thing. And every time I bring up FFP, people get very angry in the comments, Fleck. They say, always talk about it. But everyone talks about it. And there was some acknowledgement that if they got an offer that they felt that they couldn't refuse from an FFP perspective, there's some big contracts that they might decide to sort of, write off, shall we say. And maybe that could be part of it. But could you see Varane? I mean, it'd be typical United, wouldn't it? Comes back in the side, plays well, gone.
Yeah.
Disappears.
Well, this is where I've so on this, I was sort of understanding it a bit more to myself, because like taking a step back to think what I think actually the best solution is. And I looked at a big deal coming in, a big offer coming in that we can't refuse, versus what it looks like in the summer for these players to go, and what it looks like if we let them go now, and with the money we get for them, which it's not going to be astronomical, but it'd be something. What could we get now? Because we've got to get through the rest of the season, and it's not that long, really, January to May, is it? But then what would it look like without those two? If we're playing one game a week, we're out of two competitions, and it's January to May. So I was toying with it, and I was like, well, if I take Varane for first, right? Like you said, his contract's going to run out. So we have to trigger that. I know in the grand scheme of things, like we're going through this new process, which we saw Melissa Reddy speaks, so strongly about yesterday, with Ineos willing to do this, that, and the other. But Ineos still aren't here yet. And once January hits, Varane can just go for free. He can. He can go for free in the summer. Sorry, he can go for free in the summer.
Yeah, pre-contracts, European clubs.
Pre-contract. So anywhere out of England, he can do that. And would Saudi be under that as well?
I would assume so.
Yeah, I
would
don't see why
assume
it
so.
wouldn't. You know what I mean? Saudi, MLS, don't think he'll go MLS, but I'm just saying. So I was like, well, if we trigger the year, because no matter what, he has to stay till the end of the season anyway, if you don't trigger it or if you do. But if a big offer comes in, then you could sell him now. If you sold him now, what sort of money would we get for Rafael Varane? And somebody actually quite rightly pointed it out to me when I wasn't really taking it in as I should have done yesterday with that Jadon Sancho video. Because I was like, well, if we got like, I don't know, 20 odd million for Varane or 30 million for what's his face? Casemiro or something. What type of centre back could we go and get for that? You know, it's not, short, spare in the moment, January transfer window. You know, Todibo is not going to cost Todibo. He's not going to cost Spurs like 20 million, is he? 25 million. So I feel like we're probably best hanging on to them until the summer. But what's his name? Casemiro's got a long enough contract to be protected. He'd have 3 years left in the summer, won't he? So that's strong. If Saudi want to come and do business, then I'm sure they'll come. He's a big player, big name, huge global footballer, won everything. They'll still be interested in him from Saudi, I think, whether it's January or then. Varane, if we trigger it, keep him, then get to the summer, you're now with a Varane who has a year left. So there's a little bit of value there, 10, 15 million, whatever it is. So I think I've come to the conclusion, and we need them. So I think I've come to the conclusion that actually, as long as we trigger Varane's situation, you know what we're like with injuries as well. Just keep him to the end of the season.
Yeah,
Which I wasn't always thinking that. I've changed my mind.
I wasn't. I mean, I thought when those sort of Bayern Munich reports were kind of rearing their heads, I thought a little bit. Well, maybe Varane could go then. But I was working under the assumption then that he was still under contract for an extra year. I thought, well, he's under contract for an extra year, so you've got about a year left. Maybe it makes sense if you're going to cash in, you would do it then. But now that we know that as of right now he's not, and you trigger the extra thing, I still see a situation where probably. I still see a situation where he'll probably. I think there'll be a decision made on his future in the summer. And I think it probably would be a United exit, honestly. And this is what's quite strange, is you do get some sort of selective hearing on this. And I kind of agree with what Marcel was actually saying on the Full View the other day when he was saying, Varane's back in, cool, he's got his space back, that's great. But still as a long-term option, when Ineos are in, and if you're building a side that you want to, compete, not to say that Rafael Varane can't compete for things, but you're building a side where you've got consistency, you're in every single competition, so you're competing every 3 days, every 4 days, and you're looking for a younger core of players. Varane still doesn't really sort of fit into that still as a longer term sort of project. Neither does Harry Maguire, by the way, because when you say, so you're saying Harry Maguire, no, he doesn't. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I think Varane is going to probably have probably his sort of best run, barring any major injury, in a United shirt for the remainder of the season. I would probably think the schedule is perfect for him. We're playing every 7 days. We don't have to take him out of certain games because we're worried about his fitness. As long as he stays fit, most likely he's going to play now, which is great for us because we play better when he's in the back four. We've seen that. We defend better, certainly when he's in the back four. But you do have to sort of think bigger picture, cast your mind back to last season when we were great defensively, but there was that situation where it was like, oh, he is available, but we can't play him for this game because we're thinking of that game and he can't do it. And you do want to, if you're building, you do want to probably look a bit more, longer term and for a younger sort of player. So I still think in the summer, I think maybe like a Saudi or maybe a Madrid or maybe like a Bayern will suit him. The reason I also thought Bayern previously was because I thought, well, they've got so many great defenders that he can afford to drop in and drop out, manage him a bit more effectively. For us, we need a centre-back, realistically, that's going to be playing, sort of 80% of the games for us consistently over and over and over again.
So
if he was at Bayern, Kim Min-jae's there. I know De Ligt's injured, but Upamecano's there. You can drop in, drop out. Varane can play the big games. You can play the Champions League games. Whereas for us, it's kind of like the drop off is so severe. You know what I mean? If he's not playing, it's like, oh damn, we're really going to miss him. So I still think longer term he probably will go, probably in the summer. And I think a couple of those sort of high earners, experienced players will probably be off in the summer. I think Casemiro might fall into that category too. But as far as January, I probably don't see it. I think probably will be with Sancho, Donny, that
Yeah,
sort of
just the
ilk.
loans things. And actually, when I think of it even more, I think we need as little moving parts as possible in January because of what's about to happen. So obvious ones like trying to find a situation for Jadon Sancho, clearly that has to happen. And obviously, looks like Donny's been done already. That makes sense. Maybe Ahmad. Again, people might say, listen, Ante's been rubbish. Like, let's try and get him in there. But like we said the other day, I think the plan for him was always to get that sort of Premier League experience this season and go and play. That was the plan right up until he got injured, which was really unfortunate against was it Real Madrid or was it Leon? Or was it when he was on tour? No, it wasn't Real Madrid. It was because I saw him walking past.
Who's that?
Ahmad.
Ahmad got injured.
Was it
Who was that
Arsenal? It was
again?
against Arsenal. Because he started against Arsenal, didn't he?
Yeah, but I think. I mean, maybe I'm mistaken,
I
but
saw
didn't
him walking
Ahmad?
past.
I think Ahmad got injured on the tour, but then came back, and I think it was after the fact. I think it was after the fact he
Oh,
hurt his knee. I don't think it was in a match,
I can't
unless
remember.
I'm
Someone,
recalling it
everyone's always really
incorrectly.
good at this. I don't know how they do it, but everyone in the comments is always really good at things like this. They remember everything. So someone put in the comments when it was that he got injured because I can't
Because he
remember.
got injured, I remember, and then we were like, "Oh, I hope it's not serious." And he came back,
Yeah,
and then I think it was after that. It was like, "Oh, Ahmad's got a knee problem," and
yeah,
then that was it.
yeah. Someone will say, but my point is that we need as little moving parts as possible during January transfer window, because there's uncertainty. Because Ineos are probably going to come in during that time. What they can do in that time is going to be fairly limited. And sanctioning any sorts of big deal just isn't going to be beyond us, as well as obviously the top of, on top of the FFP. So I just think keep the squad as it is, barring Sancho and Donny, and if we can get an emergency loan or a loan that makes sense, then fair enough, fair play. But I just don't see it changing much. And also, what sort of movements could we do if we did let Varane slash Casemiro go? Which is why I'm not surprised to see Eric Ten Hag, or reports claim that Eric Ten Hag wants to keep those two, because for him to disrupt his squad even more in the middle of the season with two big players leaving, then those, and he said, like we saw, he's going to want those players replacing. He ain't going to want to carry on without a replacement at centre back and centre mid. That's a big problem. That'll leave us with a big problem. One that's way too big for us to sort in like 4 weeks in Jan. Like, look at us, guys. Let's remember what's happening at our football club and what a mess we are. We need as much calm as possible before the incoming change. So, actually, yeah, I've made my peace with that. I think just keep everything as it is, unless there's
Mm.
something stupid. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
stupid would be Saudi come and offer us more than we even paid for Rafael Varane, or the
yeah,
best part of the 70 million we did pay for Casemiro, which is never going to happen. So,
no,
you know
Mm.
what I mean?
You never
Well,
know.
you never know, but I
You
can't
never
see
know.
it. And if that does happen, listen, if it's enough money in the kitty that really makes sense, where you just cannot say no,
Mm.
and cannot say no, that's
Mm.
different. But I don't think that type of bid.
Or and this happened a few times in the summer with some of the players that did end up going to Saudi, is offers came in and then they went to the clubs where they were at and they went, look, I really want to go. They've offered me this amount of money. I can't turn it down. And from United's perspective, a lot of these bigger players that are on big contracts, whenever they're trying to get them out the door in the past, there's all this talk about compensation, paying off their existing contract, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If the player turns around to United and goes, look, I've got an offer from Saudi, you don't have to pay off my deal.
Mm.
United will look at that and go, I'll tell you what, that's not bad going, actually. So I think it's interesting to see what they'll do in January. What a lot of people didn't expect what happened in the summer, and it turned the market on its head. And I'm really curious to see if they do really operate that much in January, or if they don't really do all that much. It's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, Jason Ramon, been a member for 17 months. Jason says the ghost of Rafe the Phantom is staying parked in the Old Trafford showroom. LOL. Yes, I believe he is. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. Treble Champ says, will we cover the Super League ruling? Clubs can't be blocked from entering. We will cover that because obviously I can see all the news that's been breaking this morning. Big trending topic. A lot of people talking about it. We'll get into what the reports have said and what the ruling's been and what we think it means and have an opinion on that. Nathan Joseph says, what's to stop us getting Todibo on loan with an option since the gym owns Nice, sell Sancho and Martial and get Cheru Guirassy, he's doing really well out there in Germany, for 17.5 million buyout. Nathan's got it all sorted. It is interesting on that because we did see yesterday, was it Romano?
Yeah.
Who said that, their Spurs have sort of opened talks with Todibo, and now it's kind of, he is open to come into England. He is open to come into Spurs. And we said, innit, it's all on Sir Jim. It's all on Sir Jim. Kenny, there's going to be a little bit of a soap opera there if that continues. Can Sir Jim fend off attention? Can he put a stop to it and say, nope, that's not happening. I'm still in control here at Nice, and whilst I am, you're not going anywhere. Then swap it over and say, all right, so I'm in control of this club now. Do you want to come here? I don't know. I don't know. If the player's unhappy and wants to force a move, I don't know.
It was interesting because people, when that happened yesterday, collectively lost their minds, as you would expect.
Oh, we said that, didn't we?
And yeah, and you do have to take somewhat of a step back and go, okay, well, these are talks. You know what I mean? They're talks. Whether or not it actually leads to anything remains to be seen. And like you said, Sir Jim Ratcliffe might look at it and just go, "It's not happening." So it could get stopped. It could be like that. You got to have the players side of things, or the agents come to Nice and go, "Hey, we've got something lined up with Spurs," and they go, "Yeah, but it doesn't matter. we're not letting you go." So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Or look, if he does go to Spurs, then that would imply that certain aspects of that maybe Sir Jim doesn't really have that much influence over, or Zayef's off the ball with that, or maybe they have that conversation and go, I tell you what, though, if we block this deal when we're getting sort of ratification from the Premier League, it's going to raise some questions whether or not we can actually do that. There's no way those conversations won't be happening about what they can and can't do regarding all of that. So that'll be very interesting.
It will be interesting because it just depends I think it will show us a lot if he doesn't go there versus if he does. And obviously, if he doesn't go there, we would all assume, we would go, hold that, Sir Jim blocked it. It might not even mean that. Might mean that the wages weren't high enough for him. Might mean that it wasn't the right move when he actually sat down with them. It could be loads of things. And if he does go there, also what would get is, see, Sir Jim Ratcliffe can't do anything. First thing you had to do, stop us getting him. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. It just doesn't. Like, if he goes to Spurs, he goes to Spurs. We've got to look at ourselves. We've got to look at where we are. We've got to look at the longer term vision. We've got to look at the longer term plan. And if Todibo, I know we looked at him, we've definitely linked with him. I'm not going to say that, but if he isn't going to be part of it, he isn't going to be part of it. As the famous Robbie once says, we've got bigger fish to fry. Like, we've really, in that situation, we really do.
And that worked out well.
Really
well for us.
Yeah, I know, it worked out great. But, we need to restructure our whole club. I just want to get Ineos in, see what it looks like, start working on it, get the right people in, and see what it looks like. If deals come too quickly for us to be able to be part of, like this one might, then it just means we weren't set up yet. We weren't ready yet to do this, especially in January. Starlord, been a member for 18 months as well. Just has a comment or just there. Big up Starlord. Yeah, big up Starlord.
The OG member. The
OG member. I don't think anyone's been a member longer than Starlord at 18 months. Big up to you, bro. Really good. Let's talk about this Super League thing then, Owen, because it is trending all over Twitter. It is taking the football world by storm. It is huge news. And let's talk about what we think it means. And I've got the Sky sort of write up on it, Sky News, which is pretty good. I know you've probably got some as well. Let's go through what's actually happened, because I think it's when this kind of stuff happens, it's like Super League's coming back. It means this. It means that. Let's go through what has actually happened.
Yeah, so the European Court of Justice has ruled this morning that UEFA/FIFA acted against competition law by blocking the formation of the European Super League in 2021. This has been a legal thing that's been rumbling for a long time. Now, they have said the FIFA and UEFA rules on prior approval of interclub football competitions, such as the Super League, are contrary to EU law. The European Court of Justice says, quote, there is no framework for the FIFA and UEFA rules ensuring that they are transparent, objective, non-discriminatory, and proportionate. Similarly, the rules giving FIFA and UEFA exclusive control over the commercial exploitation of the rights related to those competitions are such as to restrict competition, given their importance for the media, consumers, and television viewers in the European Union. The ruling adds that the organization of interclub football competitions and the exploitation of the media rights are, quote, quite evidently economic activities. They must therefore comply with the competition rules and respect the freedoms of movement, even though the economic pursuit of sport and certain specific characteristics, such as the existence of associations having certain regulatory and control powers and the power to impose sanctions. The ruling makes it clear its remit is not to comment on whether the Super League project must necessarily be approved. FIFA/UEFA argue even with a legal mandate, clubs won't come forward and back it, but Super League organisers maintain that the fear factor has been removed for them to do so. That's probably the key aspect involved in all of this. Once again, they're saying that we're not saying that it's been approved and it's going to happen, and FIFA and UEFA are saying it doesn't matter whether or not you've said it's lawful or unlawful. Clubs are still fearful to come through, but the Super League is saying, well, this fear factor is removed now, so they might actually jump back in. Finally, the court observes that FIFA/UEFA rules relating to the exploitation of media rights are such as to be harmful to the European football clubs, all companies operating in media markets, and ultimately consumers. Bernd Rijkaard, the CEO of A22 Sports Management, who were a co-claimant on the case and are promoters of the European Super League, say, quote, we have won the right to compete. The UEFA monopoly is now over. Football is free. Clubs are now free from the threat of sanction and free to determine their own futures. For fans, we propose free viewing of all Super League matches. For clubs, revenues and solidarity, spending will be guaranteed. So, to be honest, that last bit is certainly, a rallying cry with lots of different buzzwords. We're free. Football.
Watch football for free.
UEFA's monopoly is over, etc., etc., etc. So essentially, the key takeaways are that the courts have suggested that what UEFA and FIFA did to basically block it was unlawful. Of course, another competition can be founded outside of these governing bodies, and there's nothing to block them from doing so. They're not necessarily saying it's going to go ahead. They're not necessarily saying that clubs are going to jump in. They're just saying now they are free to do so without the threat, I guess, of sanction or sort of blockage from the other governing bodies. I don't know, Flex, whether or not I've seen the reaction this morning that Super League's back. It's going to happen now. Do you think that's the case, or do you think it's just a case of a bit like what UEFA and FIFA are saying when they're sort of going, okay, you've said that it can happen, but clubs still aren't going to join? Do you think that that's kind of the route that the clubs are going to take, or what do you think?
I'm unmoved as to what I thought about the Super League, because I always thought that it's going to come back and rear its neck somehow. What you have is a group of people or an organization who want to challenge the monopoly and the power and the rights of the people who run our football, which is UEFA and FIFA. And I wasn't naive enough to think that although that collapsed in the way that it did because of how they tried to do it and they got it wrong, this is about money. This is football, and it's becoming more and more about money every single year. And the figures are getting brandished about these games and these competitions are increasing every single year as well. So I knew that it was going to come back in some way. And also what I don't forget is that when UEFA and FIFA acted how they did, we all went, you see what happens if you try and mess with their money? Yeah, forget racism, forget homophobia, forget hate chants in football or any form of discrimination in football, corruption as well, another thing, forget that. All these things, you try and mess with their money by saying we're just going to take all the good teams, all the big teams, and create this thing over here and exclude them. They said, which they're right to be reprimanded for, to be fair on that point. They started using things and saying things clearly because they've just been told in court, European court, that they did things that they can't do. We're going to ban you from this. We're going to ban you from that. We're going to pull every single lever that we have to make sure you don't take our money. It wasn't about the fans. wasn't about trying to protect the integrity of the game like they said it was. Us as fans had discrepancies about what the Super League was about, and some fans were like, listen, yeah, good. I wouldn't mind playing Real Madrid every week, but some fans even liked it. But most fans, I think it was clear to see, didn't want it. Hence all the marches, all the protests and stuff like that. So I'm unmoved. I understand that there was bullies in town who wanted to be bigger than the bullies already, and they didn't like it. So they pushed back with everything they had in their perceived power, and now they've just been given a smack on the wrist to say you shouldn't have done that because the way you scaremongered and said that clubs will do this, this, and that, that's not true. That's not true. But on the same side, like the court say, we have to look at that bit there. It says the court said that both bodies. This is from the Sky piece that I'm reading from Sky News. The court said that both bodies were abusing their dominant position in sport. Both bodies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it also added that the ruling does not mean, which you touched on, does not mean that a competition such as the Super League must necessarily be approved. The court said it does not rule on that specific project in its judgment. So, like Owen said, they're not saying that now we've told off UEFA and FIFA, this has to happen. They're not saying that. They're just saying in getting it to collapse, FIFA and UEFA stepped out of line.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah. I mean, like they say, they said this quote, UEFA does not have exclusive control over football. A club competition can be organised and the Super League cannot be discriminated against in any way. Clubs can decide their future. And it's not necessarily just, UEFA and FIFA. It was the Premier League involved in that as well. The Premier League said, didn't they? If you enter this competition, you'll be kicked down. You're not going to be welcome back. Because that was the thing too, wasn't it? If you enter it, not only will you be sort of exiled, you won't be allowed back. And also you had clubs within the Premier League, didn't you, voting on it and saying, kick these clubs out. We don't want them and what have you. And you're right. It felt like a lot of people were coming together, but their motivations for coming together were vastly different, weren't they?
Yes.
I think everyone was aligned on the fact that, this competition's not good. We can't be doing with it. It's going to damage the integrity of football. But I think from a fan's perspective, it was about, no, the football should have the promise of promotion and relegation, and everyone should have a fighting chance and everyone should be able to, compete. And this sort of Super League was kind of this outside project where people were going to be invited in, weren't they? And it was basically going to be the biggest people around a table. Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily about success. It was about money, and other clubs, rightfully so, people like Leicester and that were like, well, we would never even be involved in this competition. We won the Premier League, and that would never happen in this competition. All that kind of stuff. So I thought the fans certainly were protesting based on sporting integrity. No, this is a fundamental.
That was what was important to fans.
Yeah, that's the important thing. And like you said there, whereas UEFA were like, no, you can't do this. Why? Well, we've got the Champions League. Damn it, you can't compete with that. And the ironic thing is, since then, the Champions League, it's undergone this reform now. It's changing next year. So, and it's looking a bit more Super League-ish in the sense of more teams are being added into it, not necessarily based upon total sporting merit. And then on top of that, FIFA took it one step further with the revamped Club World Cup, which they're saying is based on merit and based on the coefficients and all that kind of stuff. But it's just a giant farce.
Yeah.
I mean, Chelsea are in it, based off them winning the Champions League in 2021. I mean, there was even a discussion whether United were going to be in it. And to be honest, I'm thankful that we're not, because you don't deserve to be. What have we done on the European stage in the longest time?
Well, they're prepping. They're prepping. Again, that's what I'm saying. So in the threat of that Super League, I believe they're trying to change things anyway. More money, more revenue, more games. You know what I mean? UEFA added in the Nations League. That's more money, more games. Like you said, World Cup. Even the actual World Cup, I think, is having more teams soon, isn't it? Is it the next one or the one after? I'm sure there's a proposed change.
Been expanded, yeah.
That's going to be expanded as well. So they're doing it. And one thing I would say that does concern me a bit is, let's not forget, all of our teams signed up initially.
Yeah.
All of our teams signed up initially before
and
it
they followed. They followed the leader in that sense. There were some teams that were more reluctant than others to sign up. I think, ironically enough, I believe it was City, and it might have been like Chelsea. Well, there were a couple in there that were like, well, we didn't really want to sign up, but
it still did.
But other people were, because they were like, well, we're going to miss out.
And Chelsea, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And I think Chelsea were the first to maybe come out of it, or was it City? I think it was them two anyway, one of them. And then it's just like dominoes, wasn't it? It all just kept falling. But let's not forget our club signed up. So that's the first thing that is a concern, because there was obviously something there where they went, tell you what, we'll have a bit of that. That's what happened. That is what happened.
That flex, not even necessarily. We'll have a bit of that. Yeah, the Glazers were instrumental
100%.
in
And Ed Woodward was
putting it together. Yeah, I mean, we're talking
exactly.
again.
He went from it.
There's Florentino Perez and all that kind of stuff, but the Glazers, by all accounts, were instrumental, particularly when it came to funding and securing the funding. I think it was from either JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs. They were the big people in putting that funding together. They were all in for this, all in. And in fact, remember, we're in this strategic review of alternatives now. One of the big catalysts for that even starting in the first place was what? The collapse of the Super League, because they banked on it. They said, that's the big revenue source for us. That's going to be big for us. Boom. And then it collapsed and they went, shit.
So we have to think about
we've run out of money.
Facts. It's facts. And that is something where I think people are right to be concerned. I think what I wanted to do in this bit is to definitely talk about what the court had said versus what they haven't said. But I do think people are valid in being concerned about now what can come next, because even the agency, the A22 Sports Management, who the commercial sports development company that are behind, the project essentially, for them to obviously they're gonna do the thing on social media. We've won. This is good, but you have to think now what this does do, it does open up the window for them to reconstruct something else.
Yeah.
In a better way, in a more diligent way, in a way that they can learn from their past mistakes of how they did it before and present something else. Which I think was always going to happen. Yes, it failed. Yes, it collapsed like a pack of cards. But you could see there was enough there to get those big clubs to even sign up to that. You know how far down the process you must have gone, and what you presented to them for the clubs to go, tell you what, Alex, yeah, we're in. Like, that's massive. So they're now they've got that sort of UEFA and FIFA on the back foot about how they oppose this. They have to do it legally now, because now FIFA and UEFA, they've got the European court on their back now. So if they respond to these in the future, because they're going to come with something else, at some point. When they do respond to it, they've got to be careful how they do it, and they might not even know how. Do you know what I mean? So something else is going to come.
And the biggest difference, and you could laugh and say, but Owen, it says the European Super League. But the biggest difference now is those Saudi teams. That's a big X factor involved in all of this as well. Because like I said, initially when this ruling came out, and I was like, I don't know if necessarily anything really changes that much. I think because of the backlash, because of what happened last time, not necessarily from the FIFA UEFA point of view, but from the fans' point of view, I think that, like they sort of said, like UEFA and FIFA said, I think the clubs would still be a bit like, I don't know if we jump back in, because we got, people were really upset last time. But they are desperately trying to find a way to integrate some of these Saudi teams with these big marquee players into European football. There have been those, offhanded discussions about, is there a way we could get one Saudi Pro League team in the Champions League, or how would that look? What would that look like? And I think right now, with is it Al Ittihad that's at the Club World Cup in Jeddah, I think it is. And they've got all the stars there, and they're going, oh, this is great. If the Saudi PIF, the Saudi Pro League went to the people that organize the European Super League and say, hey, we'll help you funding, we'll put a lot of money into this. Oh, and by the way, what kind of marquee players can you bring to the table? Benzema, Neymar, Ronaldo, we can bring them all in, and they'll be like, and suddenly eyeballs on the product. And that's what UEFA have been looking at this season with the Champions League. If you remember, this is the first Champions League in I don't know how many years. It's got to be comfortably 2 decades that's had no Ronaldo, no Messi, no Neymar, no Benzema. They are 4 of the biggest hitters in terms of putting eyeballs on the product that ever in the history of football, and they're all gone. And if the European Super League could find a way to get at least 3 out of those 4, because Messi's in America, but who even knows? they might go, and we can get one MLS team in there as well. Because there are no rules. Because there are no rules when it comes to that. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. So they could easily do that. And I think that is an X factor involved in all of this. That's an opportunity, and they might look at it again as funding. They really might.
Yeah, I think watch this space. I wouldn't say. I mean, look, some obviously the United accounts are sort of saying it's United District actually, which again is technically true. They're saying a court ruling has now stated that Man United can legally join the European Super League should they choose to do so, which is true. Which is true. But when you read it like that, it's like
That implies Man United were waiting at the door.
exactly. But with the Glazers, we probably were.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah. And Master via Madrid Extra, they've said that the new idea of the Super League is for an open league with 60 clubs with different divisions. So, look, I think over the next couple of days, it's going to be Super League mad. There's going to be a lot of, not scaremongering, but a lot of big outlets proposing things. A lot of this might happen, or there's been talks about this. It's all going to be this. And I don't think an awful lot will happen. I think there'll be a lot of sort of like media talk now. I think now that they have the ruling that they wanted in terms of that A22 sports management company who are behind this project, they now, I think, will go away however long it will take, a year, 6 months, 9 months, 2 years. I don't know. I have no idea.
Do you think clubs will come out publicly and deliver a stance on it?
Nah.
You know, for instance, do you think because I mean, it was teams in Germany didn't get involved, did they?
No,
they
they
sort of
didn't.
said, no, we're opposed to it straight away. And I wouldn't be shocked if you did have some clubs around Europe deliver pretty quickly some statements being like, we're not interested, basically. We're still not
the
getting
Premier
involved.
League. I don't think our clubs will.
It'll be interesting to see if any Premier League clubs do that.
I don't think they will.
Like, for instance, those ones that were very much after the fact, like we didn't even want to do it in the first place, like a City comes out and goes, well, we're still not going to go into it and all that kind of stuff. You know, maybe with all of the charges that they've got, they're like, right, we're out of here. We're going. And that might, and I tell you what, in terms of domino effects, it'll be very interesting. It'll be very interesting to think how willing the Premier League will be to piss off Man City when it comes to those charges. Because then maybe City and Abu Dhabi go, actually, well, if you're gonna punish us for something that we may or may not have done, which it looks like they possibly have, allegedly, they could be like, well, we'll just go Super League. We'll just leave. We'll go somewhere else.
What does that mean? Does that mean that you can't be held accountable for the things you did while she was in our competition, but you're gone now? And it's very messy.
Is there FFP in the European Super League? It's outside the governing bodies of FIFA and UEFA.
Well, they said guaranteed money. They said, to spend and all this stuff.
So if you go in there, do you have suddenly is your spending power now unlimited? You don't even have to hide it with fake sponsorships and all this kind of stuff. What happens? Sometimes you hear those like those sort of disputes between like Real Madrid and Barcelona with La Liga in Spain. And then you get those wacky stories from time to time going, Barcelona could come to the Premier League if they're exiled from La Liga or whatever. Yeah. I suppose possibly it could give, these sort of bigger clubs a bit more leverage because they could threaten to walk. They could go, right, we'll go. We'll go somewhere else. We'll exit. We'll go to the Super League because it's now somewhere that they're not necessarily blocked from going towards. Whether or not they'd actually do it, I don't know. But I think possibly when it comes to the City thing, I hadn't really thought of that. Maybe the Premier League sort of thinks, well, how hefty do we punish these guys? Because if you were City, right, hypothetically, and then let us know in the chat, if the Premier League said you're guilty of all of these charges, 115 or whatever it is at this point, and we're relegating you to the conference, what does City do? Do they go, right, we'll work our way back up. It's going to take us 4 years or however long it takes to get up. It's going to take us that long. Or do we keep everyone and keep all these big players? And do we just go to another league where we still have these players, we still have the money, and we can do something like that? And very interesting.
It is.
Those things, that's a subplot. And it's like I said, the Saudi subplot, that subplot, there's going to be a couple of those, I think, now, which are quite interesting to see.
And that's what I'm saying. These are the things that we just don't know. And that's why I think the conversation pool has just opened up now for all of these types of discussions of, what do you think would happen if this happened then? Oh, well, what about that? Oh, but this. Oh, but then would they do that? But then if they come with this, that's because that's now where it's got to. So that's what I mean. I don't think there's going to be anything concrete that happens in the not too distant future, but I do think there's going to be loads of conversations, big media outlets discussing it, whether it's Sky and TalkSport and us right here, fans getting a bit twitchy, a bit nervous. What do they think is going to happen? All that type of stuff. So we'll see. Lil Yo says all these games would be fine if squads are bigger. And Lil Yo also says, Flex, if Super League happens, please remix Europa song. I don't even know what song it'd be if there's Europa, if there's a Super League. With just over 900 people watching and 126 likes, I'm sure we can push. We can keep pushing. Let's get to 200
We can
likes.
go higher.
We can go higher.
Much higher. Just over 10% we're at there. Just a
Exactly.
10% like rate. Wow.
Exactly.
I know there's not much to like when it comes to the Super League, but you know, I've heard a rumor. I don't know if you've heard this, Flex, that if you get to 500 likes, apparently Super League's not going to happen anyway.
Yes, there you go. Just get
Rumor.
to this is your chance to get rid of Super League altogether. Get us to
Yeah.
500 likes. Donny van der Beek, just quickly. Looks
Yes,
like that's
very
pretty
quickly.
much wrapped up and that's going to happen.
Yes, indeed. It looks like that's wrapped up and that's done. Fabrizio Romano tweeted this morning that Donny van der Beek deal has been completed by all parties involved. Documents are being exchanged after the player completed medical tests in Frankfurt. Donny will be an Eintracht player on loan from Man United starting on January 1st. So Donny's
It's a
loan deal
15 million option.
I believe so. There is an option, not mandatory, but it is an option. And I think United are getting a loan fee as well. So it would look like actually not a bad deal.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, and it sounds a bit pessimistic, but you know, Donny's gone on loan before, and obviously it didn't end good. I hope he can stay fit.
Yeah.
He hasn't played football consistently for a long time. Well, since he's come to Man United, the last 3 years he hasn't played football. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Since playing week in, week out for Ajax, so this is a real big chance for him to stay fit. And hopefully, and again, it is a little bit selfishly for us, but for him as well, hopefully stay fit, do well there. They go, yeah, we want to buy him. Here's 15 million, and then he can resurrect his career again in Germany. You know, he might not have been the route where he thought. You know, this guy was going to go to Real Madrid in COVID just before that.
There's that clip going around, isn't there, of Carve on Sky? Have you seen it?
No.
So when United signed Donny in 2020, Carve's on Sky, you know, sat at the desk and all that kind of stuff. They're asking, so who's Donny van der Beek? And he's like, well, Manchester United have signed an £80 million player for half the value. He is going to be a very special talent. And at Old Trafford, he is going to flourish. United have signed one of Europe's hottest properties. And you watch it, and you just go, wow.
Well, his name at that point was quite.
It was.
Yeah,
it was. It wasn't necessarily wrong in the time, but you just go like,
not 80 million for 4. Yeah,
but aged poorly. It is one of those ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And but to be fair, most of us, I'm not going to say all because when you do that, it's not always accurate. But most of us, I remember the general consensus was we've actually got him for a bargain. 40 million crowns was, or 45, whatever it was like, I'll tell you what, for a player of his quality, he's a really good player. Exactly what we needed. Good footballer, intelligent. I mean, it's exactly what we needed. And this guy was going to go Real Madrid. Wow.
Yeah.
We don't normally make signings like this. Well done, Man United. That's how I felt. So essentially, that's my Carveism as well. I didn't quite say he's an £80 million player for half the price, but we did all say we're getting him for a very good price here. He's a good player. But yeah, we all got sold down the river and that hasn't gone well. So yes, I wish him all the best. And hopefully, the main thing is hopefully he can stay injury free so he can get some rhythm because he is a good footballer. It just didn't work here. It just didn't work here. Exactly. No more comments there as well. On to West Ham versus Man United. Really quickly. What say you? What's going on? What's the current?
Wow, actually, what say me? What say you and Anton Ferdinand, right? Because Flex was not here with me yesterday. It's because he was at the London Stadium and he was filming a preview of Anton Ferdinand. That's dropping tonight, this evening, 6 p.m. We have a little clip saying, well, Flex explains why the audience, the UV community, is not very happy with Anton Ferdinand at the moment. Take a look.
I had to bring through Anton Ferdinand. You know what? You guys said don't bring Anton through. They're angry at you.
Why?
They're angry.
Why?
And I don't want you, please, when I mention this, don't go into it. It's the thing we always argue about.
Okay.
The Sancho thing. They keep saying, why does he keep siding? No, but we're not going to do that today. I'm just saying they were angry with you for that.
Okay.
But
no problem. That's fine.
I don't think Anton's going to care because, listen, before we started filming this, obviously preview for the West Ham game, they scored 3 against Wolves, got packed 5-0 the game before that, but Kudus is doing his thing.
The real star boy. The real star boy.
The real, you see? But it's a big game. We were off the back of a draw against Liverpool when we all thought we'd lose, but there wasn't much attacking-wise to say, like, yeah, see, we're fixed now. We're going to go West Ham and deal with them.
Yeah.
Last year, David De Gea threw the ball in the back of the net, which we made a big mistake, and that cost us the game, and we were doing all right apart from that.
You could do with him now, though.
No, we got Onana. Don't try it, bro. Listen. Don't try it. That Bentley who was in goal for Wolves the other day. He gifted you a couple as well, mate. But Onana's not going to be on that.
Okay.
But what are you saying though? From a West Ham perspective, London Stadium. You know what I mean? Man United coming.
Man United in town is always a big game. It's always a fantastic game. You know, it's a hard place to come for United, and always have been over the years.
Since you moved there, innit? Yeah.
You know, and son, we're doing well at the moment. We're in good form at the moment. Yeah, we got beat 5 the week before, but in terms of Europe and our last game in the Premier League against Wolves, the boys seem to be clicking the front three. And I must say, I'd rather have my front three than your front three right now.
See what I mean?
I just have to say it. I have to call it as it.
Listen to him. I must say, I'd rather have my front three than yours. Not wrong, is he? He's one scores more than us at the moment. And you know what? Show says it there. Worst possible result for us last night. West Ham going to have a reaction for sure. Me and Owen were talking about that at the beginning, just before we went on air. And Owen was saying, yeah, did you see West Ham? Obviously, they played rubbish. And I was like, yeah, well, kind of like Fulham, got packed 5-0. Next game's at home to Wolves. You know, they're good at the London Stadium. Crowd gets up. They get a reaction. And that's how I see it going on Saturday. They're going to be up for it. There's another video coming out, me and Anton as well, on Friday, behind the scenes at London Stadium. So obviously the match preview is coming out tonight at 6. Behind the scenes at London Stadium, which was actually quite eye-opening, actually. A lot of the stuff they got with the baseball and the World Series, London Series that goes on there. You actually forget that happens. And some stuff in the change room as well. Was there some Fleck Judge? All of the West Ham players' shirts were out. They were out. Tune in to find out if there was some Fleck Judge as well. So yes, difficult game, and I'll be with Anton at the game as well on Saturday as well. So yeah, plenty to come. Plenty to come. Thanks everybody for watching. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Am I missing any super chats or comments? No, I'm not. And yeah, loads of content coming your way, and we'll see you all again very, very soon. Take care. Peace.